What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a longtime assistant coach, a bright basketball mind in this business, an excellent talent evaluator, a tremendous teacher. And what I say about him most is he's a winner. And everywhere he's been a winner. And he's a Linden, New Jersey native, Coach Curtis Wilson. And before I bring him on, I'm going to talk about it like he's one of those, he's an individual that he's spent a long time in this business, but he hasn't been a lot of places. You hear a lot of times coaches are in a lot of places, but he's been in places in short stints. He was an outstanding basketball player at Delphi University, where he's still currently the fifth all-time leading scorer in school history. He was a Hall of Fame inductee in 2001. So, I had an outstanding career at Delphi. And then from there, he got right into coaching, where he had a chance to also receive his master's degree, but spent 3 years at his alma mater as an assistant coach at Delphi University. And then from there, he goes up to Vermont with Tom Brennan. Tom Brennan for 5 years, from 1994 to 99. And then he goes to Yale with James Jones for 12 years. Spent assistant, and then for 5 of those years, he was associate head coach with James Jones. And then 2011 comes, he gets a chance to go with Joe Jones, the brother at Boston University, where he spent the last 10 years, giving the Cohen year 11. You look back at it, the time has flown by. 27 years in this business. I've always known him as a great guy. He's about business. We'll get into that later on as he comes on the show, but I want to welcome to the show, man, Coach Curtis Wilson. How you doing, Curtis?
LB, I'm great, baby. I appreciate you having me.
Well, look, man, we're going to go right into it, man. Like, this is what you come on for, to get unmasked. One of the first questions I asked, and we're going back. So it's 27 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no handbook. We know this. There's no handbook to being a college coach.
Nope.
Tell me about the first day, first week, first month, after things are done with human resources or orientation, especially when no one gives you direction. And you were playing for your former coach, and you have teammates that you played with. Now you got to coach these guys. Talk about that, man.
LB, I tell you, man, that was a big transition for me. Coach O'Connor obviously gave me an opportunity to come back at Adelphi and work on my master's and coach. And right off the bat, I had to think about how I was going to approach this situation, especially when she just finished playing and those are my boys. So, that's that transition. Now you're going to a different area of the team and having different responsibilities as outside of being on the floor. So, I'm gonna tell you straight up, the first thing I said to these guys in our meeting, I said, guys, I love you guys. You're my brothers, do anything for you. But now my role has changed. My role's changed. Now I'm a coach. And I said, so don't look at it where you're trying to take advantage of my situation because of where I am now. I said, as much as I love you, don't test those waters because you're going to lose that battle. My role's changed now. And obviously I'm excited about the opportunity I have here, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to make sure we're successful and help you guys in any way I can from this moment on in this position.
It's awesome, man. And at least you established that from the beginning, and they understood and they respected that. So that's a plus. Some guys don't know how to handle that. So that speaks to your maturity from that young of an age, man. I always say recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeline of college athletics.
Yes,
and you have to be able to get good players. We always want to get great players, good players. You have to be able to get good people. And then you also have to get good students. And in your case, especially actually in all places, the last few all the places you've probably been, you got to get good students. And it's not always, you know, and I always say, you don't have to be an A student. You know, sometimes you may not have to be a B, but in your case, it's a little different. But you need to have students who care about wanting to get a degree, who care about going to class. So that's a less thing. That's one thing off your plate that you don't have to worry about when you have kids that want to go to class and want to get a degree. You don't have to chase them around worrying about them being in class or not. But what has been your best or worst recruiting story through the years? You know, just popping your mind fresh, like things that happened with you.
Wow. Well, let me see. I'm gonna go with one of the worst experiences I had. Probably, I'll tell you, LB, was when I was at Yale. And you know, like you talked about the academic standards and the things you have to do to get young men, and you know, and you throw in not only the academic piece, but you throw in the financial piece during that time. You know, so you know, getting those two things to work is so much that goes into it. Whereas, you know, if you're a student athlete, you know, you want to go no money down if you can. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to get no money down, but now you're talking about one of the best educations in the world, and you know your parents are into it. You know the kids are into it, but it's a lot like, how are you going to get this to work? And probably one of the worst experiences I had that just, you know, it was a learning lesson for me was we recruited a young man out of Texas when I was at Yale, really good player. We were high on him. And so, you know, you're an American, so you know you have the academic indexes, you get all these things you're working with. And so you're trying to put your class together to present it to admissions. You know, so now this is a kid that we like, listen, this guy is going to be an impact player. You know, we felt we were going to be an impact player. And what wound up happening is you have to submit your list. And what we did, because his academic index was pretty high, we put him like third on the list, even though he was like one of the top, like, but you know, so you felt like there were a couple guys academically that weren't as strong as he was. You felt that way. We put them ahead of him. So long story short, they come back and say, listen, we're not going to be able to let him in right now. And it was like, what? Like, what do you mean? So, you know that feeling, like, it's like they're telling you something that you just like, what? And so it was shocking, because then what wound up happening is they were like, listen, but we'll work with you, try to get him into prep school. So they wanted us to get him into prep school to take another year. Now you're going to tell this parent that, you know, the finances worked out, which we thought was going to be a problem. That worked out. Now we're going to tell this family, listen, you know, right now they want you to take a prep year. You know, so now it's like, oh man. So now he agrees to it. You know, the parents are like, oh, we're going to do it. Now, mind you, he's from Texas. And, you know, here you think you got this kid that people don't really know about. So now he gets out that summer, he's going to go to prep. So that summer between his high school year and his prep year, he goes out to play AAU because he's going to take another year. And he's at a tournament down in Philadelphia at the Palestra. There's an AAU tournament and he's playing, and I get a call from Vandross, my man. Oh, you know. So O calls me up and he's like, Kurt, yo, this kid that you guys have here that's planning to come to you next year, he goes, he is tearing it up. He goes, y'all need to get down here. And we weren't down there. Like, it was like, you know, all right, whatever, we'll see him later in the summer. And I remember telling me that, and he goes, Coach Wolf and I are just like, this guy's balling out. You got to get here. Long story short, Rice comes in. You know, it's back in Texas, high academic school. And he like, not in middle of the summer, he calls James up and is like, listen, man, they said, we're not coming. We're going to go to Rice right now. So just my heart was broken. You know what I'm saying? That was probably one of the worst stories, just because, you know, it was like, took some things for granted, to be honest with you, which, you know, in this profession, you can't take anything for granted. Took for granted that we were going to be able to get him in, didn't get them in, and then took for granted that we'll be able to hold on to them through the summer, get them into prep school, and then get them the next year. And it didn't get that far. So, and he wound up having a pretty good career at Rice. So that sucked.
Yeah, that happens, man. I mean, like, you don't want that to happen, but yeah. I've been there. Trust me, I've been there on that one. That's a experience. Yeah. Those ones that stick with you too, because you like, you know, what he could have been. So yes. I truly understand.
Yes. And I don't, you know, it's no one's fault. You know, Rice did their job. Everybody's doing their job. It is what it is. He was still available for that year, and they took him. So you know, that sucked. But it is. I live to learn, like, not to take anything for granted anymore in this profession when it comes to recruiting. And, you know, you got to try to see things all the way through. Just because when you're dealing with, especially, you know, opportunities for kids, especially to play at different levels. Yeah, that was a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. We talk about in this business the amount of time and things like that you put into your craft to be successful. Yes, people have no idea. People think that when basketball season is over, it's like, so what do you do in the off season? There is no off season, you know, or, you know, what else? Do you do anything else? Do you teach at the university? No, I know that's not what I do. No. They don't understand how much, you know, basketball is 12, 15-hour days. It's you still taking stuff home. You're working 350, 300, 355, 360 days. Even when you're on vacation with your family, you still got to sneak a phone call, you know, like try to figure out how to talk to a recruit. So you always, you know, you're telling your wife is like, all right, make sure you don't have the phone. You still got to figure out a way. But you know how that is. What did you have to sacrifice? And I use that word, sacrifice, to achieve your current level of success. And you've been in it, you know, for 20 some years now. And so you kind of figured it out, but what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success?
Well, I say before marriage, you know, before marriage was spending time with my friends, you know, getting out, you know, hitting weddings and things like that you would normally hit in the summer, springs, getting together with your boys on the weekends, family things, family reunions, you know, my family's from South Carolina, so I could never make it down there for those. It was always hard. And then when you jump the broom, so to speak, like you get married, then all of a sudden now you start having kids, and now you're missing all their things. So now you're missing, you know, the soccer games and the basketball games, and you're missing, you know, little things that they do that you don't get to, like you spoke about it. You don't realize all the stuff you're missing until you get to be around them a lot more and around your family a lot more. You don't realize, dang, I missed that. Geez, like they do this. Like, you know, it's like, you know, you don't realize you missed all that stuff until you actually get to be there for it. Like, for example, missing weddings. Like I missed, you know, one of my niece's weddings this year, like during the recruiting period. Like you missed that. You know, my college roommate one of my college roommates just got married last Wednesday. I was able to make that one, and that made it because obviously Joe's just a great guy. He doesn't, you know, he don't want you missing too many things. So he was great on me making that. You know, as my college roommate, you know, I can't miss, you know, he was like, you can't miss that. So, you know, but in the same sense, you miss so many of those situations or opportunities to enjoy. The other thing I would say, LB, is, and you know this, you get August is your vacation time. Like you got like 2 weeks or a week in August. You got to figure out which week it's going to be that you're going to take vacation. So you're talking about 12 months, and you know August is pinpointed on your calendar and what your vacation week's going to be, and that's it. Because you start throwing in camps in the summer at your school and things like that. So you miss so many things. You know, so that's basically some things you have to sacrifice. There's no spring vacations. There's no June. There's no July. You know, so you know all that. So I don't think those are things you sacrifice a lot in this profession that people don't really understand.
So correct. And like you said, and the thing about it, what people don't understand, like I love it when people like, can you make dinner at this time? Can you do it? Like, my wife realized a long time ago, don't even schedule anything during the year, because you can never, it's very rare that it works out. Like, you be like, well, we might have this recruit on campus, or like, so you never know. That's the one thing about it. It's it's almost like you flying by the seat of your pants, even though and organized chaos. That's what we're gonna say. Organized chaos.
Yes, sir.
Scout reports. We know they're huge in this business, and it's always, and you want to be successful. Like, you're competing against your own staff sometimes. Everybody get caught up in like who's winning. That's how it is. You can always tell whose scout it is on the sideline, like who's involved the most, who's standing up and yelling. But like, people don't know how much goes into that scout report. They don't know that, you're watching 7-8 games. You're implementing the game plan, sitting down with the coach, talking with the coach. You're telling coach, like, hey, coach, it's, the guy, best shooter, been struggling. He's 4 for his last 30 from 3. You get to the game, kid makes his first 2. Coach turned to you like, you told me he couldn't shoot. Coach, I never said he couldn't shoot. You know how that is. So talk about, and then you can't give kids too much. Like, you can, as smart as you think kids are sometimes, you can't overload them with information. You got to give them enough that they know when they go out, they can go out and execute the game plan. So talk about your best and worst scout reports you may have had over the years. And you like, wow, because sometimes you can nail the scout report yourself, but if you don't transfer, if it doesn't get to the kids, they will go out and not play well. I mean, there might be things, or you might say, man, you know what, I missed a few things on the scout. And then you go and win by 20. Yeah. There's no exact science to it. Talk about your best and worst scout report.
Well, I would say nothing straight particular. I think the biggest thing with the scouting reports, LB, and this, is like, from when we started, I was doing reel to reel. I was doing not so much reel to reel, but I have 2 VCRs, one on top of the other, trying to cut it. Now you have synergy and all these things that do it for you. So, back then you put so much time into the tape part of it. And then, like you talked about how much you actually going to give the kids. I would say the biggest thing about scouting reports that were good or bad is that you're basically, as an assistant, you're just trying to get them the information that your head coach would want them to have. And so you're just trying to make it where he feels comfortable with what you're giving them, whether it's too much or too little. You try to work that out where what his thoughts are and what he wants his players to be able to have to get ready for the game. So you're trying to, like, just because I may want to put 15 clips from a kid, like, I'm one of those guys, like, I want to put, I want you to see how good this dude really is. Coach may be like, 5 clips is good. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I want them to see 15. I want them to understand, because like you said, when it comes to your scout, you're in your mind keeping track, the wins and losses. Like, your wins and losses when it comes to your scouts. So you kind of take that a little bit, personal, so to speak. But then I would say some of the struggle, not so much. I pride myself in knowing what the opponent is doing, every little thing. But so when you get on the court, and for the young coaches to understand this, you get on the court, a lot of times you're thinking like my first years, I have my piece of paper and I'm going through everything, so what I tried to pride myself in is being able to get on the court without that paper. You know what I'm saying? And just be able to go through every play that, and a coach may want only like 5 plays, 4 plays, but I want to be able to give those plays, the players' names. And this can happen. And it's happened to me a bunch. It was really embarrassing. Like, all of a sudden you just hit this spot where you're like, oh my gosh, you can't remember anything. Like, and now I don't have my paper. I have my paper. And it's like, oh my God. So all of a sudden you're just like, all right, so now you got to take a minute, and the whole team standing on the baseline looking at you. And you're just like, then you're like, okay, wait a minute. So now you start going through it, and you may put the guy on one side of the court that shouldn't be there. And then, and then it's like, you just like, everything starts falling apart. And then all of a sudden you're just like, that. Now I would tell you that's happened to me a few times, like where I just spaced, like, and I couldn't put guys in the right spots, and the great thing, it's all about too, LB, when those things happen, like, and the reason I didn't give you a specific time, because it's happened multiple times, like, it's all about how your coach reacts to it too. Like like Joe's great, and James is great. Like, those guys would jump on and or whatever. Like, remember, like, yeah, because we would go through it before I get on the court, and then it's like, oh yeah. So then I get my mojo back, and then I go back through and I finish. But then I think also with scouting reports, it's like, how do you guard things as a team? So like, you're the head coach, I'm working for you. You know what I'm saying? You want to guard the ball screen this way, you want to guard it this way. And I may have some thoughts about like, well, if you guard it this way, it's going to be better because of you watched all their games. Like, but then, your head coach may have a way, just how we guard it, just how we do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just go through it that way. So you try to stay with the consistency there. So a lot of times if something happens on the court, or like you talked about, guy makes shooting the ball that you didn't have down as a shooter, and he's making shots and everybody's looking at you, you're just like, he's shooting 25%. I don't know what you want me to do. Like that stuff happens, but again, in the long run, you're just trying to make sure that you give your guys the best opportunity to be successful within your scout and trying to give them the nuts and bolts they're going to need. But the good and the bad, I'll take every win and I'll pass off on every loss.
Love it. I love it. And no, you dropped a lot of knowledge in there. And I, especially the part where you like, yeah, you're not going to always have you could have a moment. I mean, trust me, we've all had it. And the reaction of the coach is huge a lot of times. And like, and you might have that one or two kids that can remember stuff. Yep. And they're like, yo, coach, we didn't do it like that yesterday. Now, there are some kids that will embarrass you in front of the coach. Yep. But there are some kids that are like, coach, now we didn't do it like that yesterday. So, and then so, if you got a great rapport with the kids, they can help you out a little bit as well. That's the one thing.
They can. So. They can burn you or they can help you.
Yes, they can. What's the biggest challenge, man? Like you've been in it for 27 years. You've worked for some really good guys. Like some really good guys. I mean, I think of Tom Brennan. I mean, the Jones brothers and your former coach. Like, but what's the biggest challenge you have experienced since you've been in college coaching?
Sticking with your guns, sticking with your gut. One of the few things, like one of the things when I first started coaching at the time, the head coach, when he gave me the opportunity and I was going out recruiting, and he was like, go with your gut. Always go with your gut of what you're seeing and what you feel when you watch a player. Like, you know how this profession is. You watch a player and you be like, this dude is good, but they don't have it on any scouting reports as being, he may be rated, a 3 and you think he's a 4 or, but you're watching these kids and, that was the one thing I always thought the challenge was staying with your gut and your thoughts of what you see and trusting your eyes. Like, analytics is a big part of things now, but I'm still trust my eyes and what I see. Like, I got to go with that first because I'm an old school guy. That's just how I am. And I can tell if a dude's, I feel uncomfortable if I tell you that dude can play or he can't play or he can help us or right now he's not going to be able to help us. Like, I go with my gut, and that was what I was taught early. So how you feel about it gets, so now when you get into these meetings and you notice, you get into the meetings, you got all your assistants, everybody's got guys there watching. So like everybody's bringing dudes to the table to present to your head coach. And you, if your boss says, he didn't play great when I saw him, I'm not big, but in your gut that dude is good. Like the toughest part is being able to say, all right, do I cut my losses and I move on to another guy on that list that I have, or do I stay the course because my gut's telling me this dude is the goods and my boss just didn't get to see him play well or hasn't seen what I saw, like that's what I think is challenging for young coaches. Like you have to understand, like you're going with what your boss wants, but then you have to make a decision in your mind. You have to trust yourself. Like there's a point you got to trust yourself on like, you know what? I know this dude's the goods. I'm staying in there. We hanging in here. Like, even if I got to argue tooth and nail in every meeting, I'm going to freaking stay on this dude. You know, that's what's hard, is being able to stay with your gut feeling of what you feel about guys you're recruiting.
I mean, that's a great answer. Like, you know, that's one, like you're saying, stick with your gut. Because a lot of people, they listen to so many people and, oh no, man, I'm telling you, nah, like you stick with. I mean, I actually true. That is old school, but it still works to today. So, do you find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? Like, I know how hard you work. I've seen you for years. I like all of those things. You know, I know how you come in the gym. You're about business. You don't need to talk to a lot of people. You know, but do you ever find that there are things about you that people might misunderstand?
I do think what happens is, and you notice having been at high academic schools, sometimes I think the perception is that the personality that I may have, because I'm a little laid back and, you know, business wise, like, you can't recruit at a certain level, because you're used to recruiting these type of kids. Like, you can't recruit that kid that may not be a high academic kid, or which is, you know, I think it's all about the relationship you build with the kid. So I think regardless of what my personality is like or where I work, you know, you know this, like, I was in Ivy League for 12 years, you know, and being here in the Patriot League going on 5 years or whatever it's been in the Patriot League before the America East. It was in America East, and, you know, sometimes perception of the type of kid that you can only recruit this type of kid or that type of kid, or, you know, like, I think don't let my personality fool you. I'm a laid back dude, but I know how to connect with kids. Like, I'm not worried about that type of stuff. I think that's what happens. Like, so that's you know, I think they think sometimes when you're pretty quiet or whatever, like, you know, like, you can't do certain things. Also, I think the perception is, once you in this profession, doing this for as long as I have, is like, what do you know? Like, you know, I know, you know, and Joe's great, because Joe asks you, like, what do you want to do? You want offense, defense? And I'm always like, I don't want either. Like, I want everything. Like, I want to learn at both sides of the ball. I don't want to be pigeonholed into a certain area, you know. So I think that's what happens too, trying to make sure that even though you're, you know, like, great in some areas or good in some areas, that I can't do the other stuff. Like, I work with the bigs. Like, it doesn't mean that I can't work with the guards. You know what I'm saying? I was a guard in college. So, like, you know, but I've worked with the bigs for the last 15, 20 years. So that doesn't mean, like, I think that's what winds up happening. You're trying to make sure you stay relevant in all areas. So personality wise, you know, don't let that great smile fool you. I'm very competitive too.
I love it. Yeah, yes, you are. You definitely are. We're all educators in this business. I mean, that's what, at the end of the day, and that probably, you know, you were a player and you probably wanted to give back, you know, just like someone gave you. You know, that's why you became a coach. And you probably didn't see it, but like everyone else saw it, and probably your coach saw it. But what would you try to teach or educate to your players besides basketball? What do you teach or educate your players besides basketball?
This is life lessons, man. Like, the things you're learning are life lessons that I can prepare you for the future. You know, whether we're on you about what you're doing on the court, or we're on you about what you're doing off the court, you know, and you always have to take that and then put it into what your daily life is going to be like. Being on time, you know, we know this. Working hard, you know what I'm saying? Reaping the benefits of what you sow. So, you know, you put that work and time in, you're going to reap the benefits of it, you know? And you know what? And it still may not be great, but you know what? You're going to feel good about the progress you're making because you put the work in. And then, you know, the other thing, understanding, take nothing for granted. Like you and I talked about earlier with the recruiting, take nothing for granted. You know, take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you, meeting people, You know, in this profession, like I work here at BU, there's 16,000 undergraduates here. There's another 14 graduate professionals. And the one thing Coach Jones speaks about, like Joe speaks about a lot, and, you know, as being the places I've been, is like, you need to connect not only with your teammates, but connect with people on campus. Don't live in a bubble. Like, don't put yourself in a bubble. Make some connections with other people, because eventually we know that ball's going to stop bouncing. And as coaches, we're going to do everything we can to help you, whether it's internships, whether it is you go play overseas or whatever, and you come back and you're looking for a gig, we're going to help you, but you have to put yourself in position where those things just happen for you too, by what you've done, you know? So work on your networking, and don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, I know you know this, we're working at America, like, ask questions. Like, these kids ask questions and they want to know. That's why they're smart kids. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
So true, so true. And you've been in it for a long time, so this will be interesting. What is the strangest or weirdest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court that you was just like, I can't even believe this kid done? Now, you don't have to name names, but like, those are things that's just like, can you really believe this happened? Or, you know, what's something that just pops in your mind that may have happened?
Well, I'm not saying any names, but I think probably one of the strangest things is, like, not strange, but it's the culture of the university. I was at Yale, and they had different type of parties. Now, this, you talking about like 1999, early 2000, they had this party, and put it this way, it was called, we had two of our players wound up going to a naked party. I'm gonna leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, they did what? So I'm gonna leave it at that. But you know, and it's par for the course, because, you know, some of these universities just have different things that go on, and I was kind of shocked that those guys went.
I can see that, because I was at Brown for 2 years, and there is,
you know,
some strange things that go on. Oh yeah, it's different. People have no idea. It's a little different. They do things a little different.
And these couple guys were like some really good players.
What's the biggest accomplishment you think you've experienced since you've been in coaching for these 27 years?
Wow. To be honest with you, the first is always, for 27 years, seeing our guys graduate. That's always number one for me. Just knowing and seeing the maturity of guys, and you know this, like, guys come in, you have those guys that come in are shy, because I have a daughter who's an introvert, she's quiet, and she's about to go to college in a couple weeks to start her college experience. And I'm so excited for her, because it's an opportunity for her to open up a little bit. You know, now she's leaving the nest, like, open up, like, experience, meet people. And I think when you have the experience, for me, is like watching these young men come in at 17, quiet, timid, they're all about hoops, and, you know, and then, you know, some guys that when they come in, they don't say 2 words, and then by their junior, senior year, you can't shut them up. Like, I love that, you know what I'm saying? Because now they're feeling good, they're into they know what to do, and they feel good about themselves, and they're confident. And to see them go on and then, you know, obviously go on and graduate, that's always special to me, when those guys get to walk down and get those degrees. And, you know, and I'll say lastly, I've been doing this, LB, for 27 years or so. I've been a part of some teams that, through them having success, making it to the NCAA tournament, but being a part of the building process of a lot of these programs, I've been a part of those. And so sometimes you feel like, geez, I've been a part of this building process, but I always, as much as I've been at programs for a long period of time, there was always something that kept me from getting to the NCAA tournament. And then last year we won it, and I couldn't go. So that was, you know, experience. I was excited that the opportunity was there, and I still feel like I went, but I didn't go because of the pandemic. And we actually played the last game before they shut it down for NCAA. So, you know, but that's where I am with the things I've been excited about.
And you said that I love it. The first thing you said was you talked about the guys graduating, because that's the biggest That's what we're here for. We promise the parents that these kids are gonna get an education. We talk it, but like I don't know if everyone really believes that. I mean, they bring them to school and it's like, and you said something about it, like you do shape these kids' lives. They come in as young boys or young men, and to see their maturity go through, and then when they walk out, because the parents are trusting you to now, when their kid leaves, he's a man, because he's experienced all these things. And I think a lot of times some coaches, I'm not gonna say, I think the majority of coaches understand like the development of the person is way more. The graduating is way more than the basketball. So I definitely commend you on that first answer. And that was truly awesome answer. Kind of entertainment question, like what movie or TV show title best describes like your work week or your home? Like what movie or TV show title best describes you?
Wow. Geez. You know what? I would say just because of our profession and what we're trying to achieve, it's like, I was a big Matrix guy. So like, I would say my week, you're always trying to, and just doing this job, like you're in the Matrix is always about trying to get to Zion. Matrix. So I consider, getting to the winner's circle and the championship, winning the championship is like getting to Zion. You're trying to get to Zion, and just the things you're going to have to go through. Like you had Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is always trying to stop you from getting there. Like, so there's so many things that are obstacles you got to go through to get to Zion. So I really think when I'm working, and what you're trying to do here as a staff is trying to figure out on a weekly basis, a daily basis, what are we doing to get better, to get to Zion, basically. So I would say the Matrix probably describes what we do, what I do, or what I've been about for every day when I come to work, what we're trying to achieve. So I think trying to get to Zion is pretty much what we're trying to get to.
I love the answer of the Matrix. That's really good. Like, that's creative too. That's thinking outside the box. I love that. What's your favorite word or phrase? Like it's like it comes to you like almost every day dealing with the players on the thing. What's your favorite word or phrase?
Mine is profanity. Let's see. It's funny. Like, I like to say that, it's funny. Like, he used to say some great lines. Like, being with James always had some great lines. He used to have like, "Don't piss in my face and tell me it's raining." Coach Brennan had some great ones. My thing is when you talk to our guys and I talk to them, I always say, are you a player or are you a killer? Which one are you? You know what I'm saying? And I let them know that it's okay to be a player. Player's good. But if you're a killer, be a killer. You know what I'm saying? That's, and I equate that to like, I try to set these guys understand, like, everybody wants to be good. And I say, if you have that drive and you have that talent and you put it together, you can be a good guy off the court, but when you're on that court, are you a killer or are you a player? You know what I'm saying?
Love that.
Be a killer all the time.
I love that. Are you a player or a killer? I like that. That resonates with life too. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? You've been around for a while, so like, what's the best piece of advice ever been given?
Wow. So many people have influenced my career and my life. Like, obviously, the first thing like I talked to you earlier is about going with your gut. Stay with your gut. Always trust your gut. Trust what you know. Trust what you've been taught. Don't, it's like if you're a left-right shooter, stay with your technique. So my thing is, I'm always saying, stay with your gut, go with your gut, doing the right things. But the one thing I would also say is, Coach Brennan used to say this all the time: kids are takers, not givers. And I think in this profession, you have to understand that. You're dealing with 17, 18, 19, 20, 20-year-olds, and you want them to do certain things or expect certain things from them. But if you remember the fact that at their age right now, they're about themselves and they're takers right now. That's who they are. They're takers. So, they're not going to be given a lot, they're takers. So that's one thing I let people understand. Like when you're dealing with teenagers and young adults and all those people up until even in the mid-20s, they're still about taking. They're taking what they need. That's for them. Like, so you're trying to win championships and you're trying to do things, and your livelihood depends on these guys getting it as a group. But remember, they're traditionally, or just by nature, they're takers. You know what I'm saying? So know that going into it so you don't frustrate yourself.
That's actually great. Like, I didn't think about that. What Coach Brendan said, like, kids they are takers. They are. I mean, they not. They, like you said, they're about themselves. It's about me. You're 100% right. Success. We all define success in so many different ways. I can probably predict what you're gonna say because I've been listening to you so much. But like, what does success mean to you?
To be honest with you, just giving what you got and dealing with the outcome and saying, like, I gave it what I had. Like, I think, like, it's interesting, like, you can, you're going through all these Zooms during the pandemic, and, you're having people speak to your team and all these people from different levels, whether they're assistant coaches in the NBA or players, and you start thinking to yourself, well, what defines success in a lot of ways? And part of me used to say, things I would think about LB, I'd be like, okay, is a guy who gets up every morning, jumps on the side of that garbage truck, and picks up garbage, throws it in the back of the truck, and gets home at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Is he successful? And part of me is to be like, well, I can't define his success. His success for him may be, you know what? I'm getting a paycheck every week. I'm taking care of my kids. I'm getting them ready for college. I'm putting food on the table. You know what I'm saying? My wife's happy. Everybody's happy. I can do what I want when I want, and I feel good about it. To me, that's success. So like, if he feels that way, that's success. That's success for him. That's success for me too, feeling happy for him. Like, so I think each individual needs to figure out what's their success. What are your goals as far as not so much how much money you make, it's about what are you trying to accomplish daily? Like, for some people, getting out of bed and just going to work is hard. Like, just, what I'm saying? I got a job I love, so I get to get up and go to the job that I love. But in the same sense, what I'm saying? Success is also being able to, like, you're a family guy, like, being able to make sure, like, when my kids say, Dad, I need a pair of shoes, what I'm saying? I want to be able to go get them a pair of shoes. To me, I feel like that's success for me. Like, regardless, if I haven't been a head coach or not, like, success for me is being able to take care of my family and doing what I need to do to make sure they're happy and getting the things they need.
Awesome answer right there. That's an awesome answer. You've never been a self-promoter. And that's why I love bringing guys on the show that I think are selfless guys who are servant. But I'm gonna give you a chance. If you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
I'll say loyal, humble, except when I'm playing on the court, then I could be a little intense, but I'm pretty humble. I don't really like people giving me any accolades for it. I've never been that guy, what I'm saying? So I'm pretty humble, but I'm pretty loyal. I think I try to do whatever, in this profession is like, you're trying to do whatever you need to do to help your boss be successful. Because if he's successful, we're successful. So, I'm loyal in that regard. And I would say competitive. Like, I'm a competitive dude. Like, you and I thumb wrestle right now. I'm trying to get that dub. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. And that's what it's funny, because my college coach used to say that, who got me in this profession. Like, he's like, if I thumb wrestle you, I'm gonna try to beat you. And I think about that, like, yeah, you think so? Well, we're gonna get at it, because I'm not trying to take an L, because I hate losing.
Love it. And those three definitely suit you. What person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Parents, I got to connect them as one. Dad never played sports. My mom played hoops back in the day when it was 6-on-6, where you couldn't cross over half court. So she was a defensive player, so she couldn't cross over half court. So when, it's funny, she used to bitch and complain about, excuse my language, she used to complain about Michael Jordan shooting the ball all the time. And I said, you just saying that because you supposed to have to just play defense. You couldn't cross over half court. So she's like, he never passes the ball. I used to be like, oh, man, but, I would say my mom and my dad was a hard worker. He got hurt and he just did a lot of things just to make sure, like we talk about success, he was still making sure he got home to put food on the table. And that means if he had to like become a courier or do something off of what he was doing most of his life, he would do whatever he needed to do to get things done. So those are the people. And I'll say probably one of the events, in addition, I'll have to go with 2LB first, would be 9/11. That was huge. Just to know that you never think how powerful you are, how vulnerable you are at the same time. It's powerful we felt this country was. We were very vulnerable at that point in time, and it affected a lot of people. It affected a lot of people and a lot of lives. And then obviously I would go George Floyd. This past year affected me in a way where it really made me feel like I need to be doing more. I need to do more.
That's powerful statements. Your parents, 9/11, and then George Floyd. I mean, and I think it opened up a lot of eyes. You're not the only one, and it's like, man, what else? I need to do more. And I think, like things happen for a reason, and I think that happened to change, and it has started to change a lot of things. So I totally agree with you on that. Well, I mean, the last, this is going fast, man. I could sit here all day. Your answer, I love them. And I kind of asked this question because it makes you reflect, and knowing what you know now, like what would you have told your young self, or what would you tell your young or younger self to help prepare you to be a college coach? Because that probably wasn't, as a player, you wasn't thinking about it, but like now, like you're like 27 years in, and you go back and say, man, what should I have done, or what could I've done, or to prepare me along for this journey? Not saying that anything changes, but what would you have said? This is what you need to look out for.
Ooh, wow. I would say, like, your trust of people is important, but you can't let it take away you trying to be or be successful, so to speak. So for instance, like example would be like, being assistant. Like I've been assistant for 27 years. Like, I've interviewed for some jobs here and there, but like you think about it, I'm happy where I've been. I'm happy what I've done. I'm happy with the people I've worked with. You mentioned it earlier, like I've been at places a long time. And a lot of it is because of the people I work for and work with, whether it's all the assistants I've worked with over time. And then obviously the phenomenal young men I've got the opportunity to coach over my 27 years. But sometimes you think, I had some people say this to me, Kurt, you're too nice. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you probably should be here, but you're just too nice. Like you don't want to upset the apple cart, which I've never wanted. I just want to be successful and win and do things to help my team win. So I would say sometimes try to be a little bit more selfish early, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you can look at certain guys in certain areas, you'd be like, how did he get there? And then you'd be like, well, shit, like, I probably should have been a little bit more selfish in some ways, but if I could go back, I probably would have been a little bit more selfish, but doing it the right way, I guess, to see where I would be now. But then it doesn't take away that I'm happy where I am and where I've been.
That's awesome. And the thing about it is, but if, you go back and look at it, you say, but no one, like I look at guys like yourself, I look at Kevin Clark.
Yeah.
Like you guys have done things the right way. And you look at the longevity you had. Like Kev just finished year 38. Like, so
talk him all the time,
you
man.
do
That's my
things
dude.
the right way. You've been the, you can say the so-called oh, he's too nice, but your longevity
Yes.
has been tremendous versus some guys who so-called start off kind of selfish, get the job quick, but they're out. So like, it's, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But I think, there's no, like I look at like Larry Harris. Like, I mean, when I started interviewing guys, Kurt, like you guys are like, I mean, you talking about that's a long, you like 27 years in this business. There's not a whole lot of guys doing that. But at the same time, you've done it the right way, and you use the word. I mean, success. Like that's a success. You haven't gone without a job. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I look at. So, I just big hat off. Big salute to you on that. But I want to thank you again, man, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to leave with the people before we go?
First of all, man, I want to say I want to thank you, brother, because the opportunities that you're giving us to sit down with you and to tell our stories a little bit here and get people to know us a little bit more. That again, like you sit down in the gym with guys and it's we're working, we're doing our thing, we're doing the grind, and I don't know what this guy's life has been like, how he see things. We're competitors. We're trying to do what we got to do for our programs. And I think the opportunity that you've given us to sit here with you, and you got some high powered questions, bro. I tell you, those questions are pretty, wow. You know what I'm saying? So I have to give you the love, brother, because you're doing it for us, brother. You're doing it not only for yourself, but you're doing it for us. So, I want to thank you for that. And, the other thing I would say is, I heard this on the radio once, never judge a man until you get to walk a mile in the shoes. You know what I'm saying? I tell people when you meet people, give them a chance. You know what I'm saying? Just give them a chance, like, because everybody's going to have their different opinions on people, so always just like, give them a shot. See what your thoughts are. Don't go by what everybody else tell you. Give them a shot. Like, talk to them, spend time with them. Then you can make your own conclusions. Until you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, you don't know what their life's like. You know what I'm saying? Why they say the things they say or do the things they do. So don't prejudge people until you get a chance to spend some time with them. So if that opportunity presents itself. So that's where I'll leave it with, man. And I appreciate you to let me on here and spend some time with you, bro. Looking forward to meeting up and seeing you soon and having a soda or something.
Yes, sir. Thank you for those great words, man. I mean, I appreciate it. And then dropping the last bit of knowledge, because that was the one thing you said it. We would be in gym, not just me and you, but like coaches would walk in the gym, and like some coaches are looking to see what is on your shirt, whether they talk to you or not, right? And so what this happened with the pandemic and then doing this, it allowed other guys to call me and say, hey, you got such and such number, I want to reach out to them. And guys were calling each other, talking to each other because they had seen this show and was like, man, I didn't know this about you. Or, and they were trying to get to know each other for the first time and not being like, because, we'll walk in the gym and it's like, you always go with your group, or like, and that's how it's been. But I think this allowed guys to be like, yo, man, he's a really good guy, to get to know him. So, no, I appreciate those kind of words. And so I want to thank you viewers for watching another great show, and stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.
Right.